What's up, guys? It's MJ, and here is my round nine. I want to say 9, either 8 or 9. I think it's 9. Race report / interview that we did with my dad. This is post interview. It's pretty good. A little awkward on my end because when I'm answering questions, I'm just kind of staring off into the distance. But yeah. So hope you guys enjoy.
You went to Snowshoe for the first time. How was it?
It was pretty good. It wasn't my first time on the mountain. I was on the mountain last year, but wasn't able to race just because I quit racing at the time. So, there's a story for everybody out there. If you feel like quitting, maybe quitting's the best thing at that time and you come back stronger. But yeah, it was fun. I had a blast, not just from the racing aspect of it, but from hanging out at the mountain with everybody and just so much stuff going on. It did suck that it was a little cold and wet and rainy, but you win some, you lose some.
We'll start off by talking about the race. Snowshoe's kind of different in the aspect of every race you've ever raced, you've started on dirt or grass. This one actually starts on asphalt. What was that like?
It was a little weird, but it really didn't change much. You just go up and you start. I could have had a better start, but I kind of hesitated after Ricky waved the flag, which kind of screwed me on the start, but I was still able to come out second off the pavement. But yeah, it really doesn't change much, except for, a lot of people hype it up and, makes you a little anxious about doing it, but it doesn't really change much.
And being able to talk to you a little bit after the race, you shared with me there was an incident on the first lap where a rider in your class crashed. Talk about that and what it did to you mentally, and where were you at seeing that, and a little bit into after the race you were able to catch up to him. Obviously we don't need to mention his injuries, but just tell me a little bit about what took place, and then mentally where you were at because of some other issues you've had earlier in the season.
No, yeah, I mean, he just came down one of the ski slopes, and one of the big ski slopes. If you race the AM race, I don't think the PM race does it because I think they take a different route to go down to Howard's Hole. But if you race the AM race, the big ski slope with the big kicker in it, and downhill, and he just didn't lift for that kicker, and it sent him flying, and he ejected off the bike. Bike continued to flip and hit him while he was in the air. And it definitely shook me up a little bit, especially after the crash I had at the Hoosier. So yeah, it didn't help that it was within the first mile or so of the race. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things that you got to get around. And unfortunately, I couldn't get my head out of my butt soon enough and lost too much time thinking about it and thinking about my own issues I was having with the quad at the time, or throughout the whole race. And unfortunately, it cost me.
Being that you brought up that, what issues were you having? What issues were you trying to chase and figure out on your pit stops to try and get the quad dialed in a little bit more?
So the pavement start isn't the only pavement section of the track. There's about I wouldn't even call it a quarter mile of pavement that you run along after a hill climb, and kind of up towards the top of the world. And while I'm going down it, I'm just wobble in my left front wheel. And throughout the whole first lap, I noticed something was off, and it just, I was trying to figure out what was going on with the wobble. Obviously, you guys know they don't know this, but I came in on my first lap, pitted for probably about a solid minute or so, and just looking at the front, and actually pitted twice on my first lap. Stopped at with Nathan, and we kind of checked it out, and then I stopped with you actually on the beginning of my second lap, and just chasing steering problems all year, or not even all year, just ever since my crash. it seems like something's been wrong with the steering. I don't know if something's tweaked in the frame or if there's just stuff tweaked in there that we can't see with the naked eye. But yeah, there's just something off that we got to get figured out.
Well, let's finish off with the race until we move into some other questions. After you came in, you pitted, we talked, we made a decision as a team for you to go back out there, and you seemed like you started putting your head down. Go into the second lap a little bit, and then we'll go into your third lap and finish off the race, and then I got some other questions in regards to the weekend as a whole.
The second lap, I was still kind of riding like a grandma just because I didn't really know what was going on with the front end. Still a lot of play in the steering, and just it was giving me a lot of negative feedback to the steering that I didn't like. And yeah, second lap was not much better than my first one, if it was even better than my first one. And then I came around for the third lap and just decided that it hadn't broken yet, so it wasn't gonna break. And if it did, it was kind of, oh well. We have I think an 11-week break between now and the Mountaineer at the Boy Scout camp. So if it did break, we had plenty of time to fix it. So I just kind of put my head down the third lap best as I could. Unfortunately, I didn't stay on the lead lap this race just because my first 2 laps were so bad. Excuse me, but just kind of put my head down best I could, and didn't come out where I wanted to. I think I came out 5th. I don't even know what place I came out in, because obviously it's not where we want to be. I believe it was 5th place, but yeah, I just lost too much time the first 2 laps to make it up. And even the third lap, even though I was driving around like a grandma, still a brutal course, and took a lot out of me. So even though I was pushing on the third lap, still couldn't push as hard as I could have on the first 2 laps if I would have just put my head down and fought through it harder.
Well, and I don't have the lap times directly in front of me, but I know I did look at them, and you did make up a lot of time on your third lap once you were able to mentally, I think, get your head wrapped around that, exactly what you said. If it hasn't broke now, then I'm gonna go out there and ride the hardest. And actually, I believe you were able to make up almost exactly 5 minutes. You were 9 minutes going down into your third lap, and ended up finishing 4 minutes behind 4th place. So that's pretty impressive once you were able to mentally get your head wrapped around to be able to do that. In regards to the race, is there anything else you want to kind of add to it, or before we move on to some other questions in regards to the weekend as a whole?
Not really. It was just a blast. As much as the race sucked, of course we want to be better than where we were, and I truly believe we will once we get back off summer break. But it was just a blast. It was a mud fest. The rain was coming down the whole time. I think it's the first time I've ever had a race where I wouldn't say poured, but it was coming down pretty hard, and I had an absolute blast in it. It was a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind if the rest of the races finished out like that.
Well, one question that popped in my mind, compared to this track and the conditions, where's this rank in regards to any other mud fest that you've had? Where's the track and the mud? And a follow-up question to that too is, when you started and throughout the race, it seemed like, because we were in the mountain Snowshoe ski resort, it seemed like you were in a fog or a cloud. How did that affect your vision going into the valleys and back up on the mountains and all that? But first of all, how did the race itself match up to any other quote unquote mud fest that you've been in?
I didn't race John Penton this year due to the injury that I sustained at the Hoosier, so I can't really compare it to that. But I don't really think I can compare any mud races that I've ever had to mud races that I have now because of the machine that I'm on. It was definitely, I was doing stuff that sports quads couldn't, I was pushing sports quads out of the way that were stuck in ruts. A sport quad got me stuck because I came up behind him and there was a rock on the left side and kind of an embankment, and everybody was trying to go around this rock, and it got really rutted out. So the sports quad got stuck in front of me. There was nowhere for me to go. So I came up and I hit the sports quad to push him out of the way, or not out of the way, but out of the rut, and he stalls it. But I pushed him just enough to where I was in the rut. So I ended up getting stuck for probably about 20-30 seconds, and this was on the last lap. And probably about 20-30 seconds I was stuck there just shaking back and forth trying to get out of it, and obviously eventually I was able to get out of it. But it was a lot of fun racing in the mud and on this thing. Like I said, there was probably 3 or 4 times that I pushed the sports quad out of the way, out of my way in the rut, or pushing them through the rut to get out. I actually stopped, got off my quad at one point because the person was stuck on a log. So I got off my quad. This was on the second lap, and helped them get their quad off the log so we could go through. And so that was interesting, but which sucked because it kind of killed my hands. I had mud on them at that point, and unfortunately we didn't have any rags for me at the pit stop the next lap. But yeah, not too much to add.
You had Dad's sweatshirt.
Yeah.
At that pit stop.
Yeah.
Another really story that you told me after the race is also on a hill climb. There was a bottleneck and you had to take a alternate line and ended up in the crowd.
Oh yeah, right by the finish line. The racers will know which, and I'm sure some of the spectators will too. But the hill climb going up to the finish line, it started coming off of a road, and there was a high line that you could turn up and go up the hill sooner, or you went up and, well, I took the high line and was coming through the crowd and yelling at the crowd to move out of the way, and I got to the very end, and there was a photographer. Unfortunately, I don't know who it is, but the photographer wouldn't move out of the way. I'm yelling like, hey, move, and eventually somebody from the side sees what's going on and literally says, move out of the way, and just shoves him out of the way, which allowed me to go through. And you saying hill climb kind of brought this thought in my head. It was weird going up the hill on these CVTs, because obviously if you guys don't know, that the Can-Ams are CVT driven, they're belt driven, and going up these hills, there was some of them where you couldn't get up in the RPMs. You couldn't get into the power band of the quad, so you're just lugging it up this hill trying to make it up. And I thought it was just mine, like maybe I was having problems with the higher elevation, but after talking to Brandon and a couple other guys, they were all struggling with the same thing, just not being able to get it into the power band on some of those steep hills, especially the ones that were all washed up with mud and stuff. The mud just dragging you down, not allowing it to get up there.
Awesome. So let's go into the weekend itself. Snowshoe's kind of a different venue other than what we normally do. You know, normally we're in a cow pasture in an open field. Snowshoe's a different venue because it is an actual ski resort. They have restaurants, and Snowshoe tends to be similar to Ironman, where it's turns into a party. So let's go down and talk about some of the people that you got to meet outside of our network that we normally hang out with. Some of the cool people that you feel you got to meet this weekend, that you got to speak in depth to and kind of hang out with for a few minutes and gain some knowledge and see what they do. You knew what they did in the industry, but how they got to the industry and how they got started and where they're possibly going inside the industry.
I know you teed me up for this answer, and I'm going to completely shank the ball and go in a totally different option, and then we're going to come back to this. Because you brought up the people that we met that were outside of our network, and just there's some interesting characters at Snowshoe. And if you've ever been to Snowshoe, I'm sure you understand. We had a guy that was next to us that I'd say was, as they said in the ATV broadcast, had a few too many Pepsis on Friday, Thursday and Friday. They were there both days, and he was an interesting character, and just you get to meet a lot of people, and while you're there, especially if you go down to the parties, and but to answer the question that you teed up for me, got to meet Miss Landers, Miss Paula Landers, who's the, I guess you would say, part owner of Magna One Motorsports, the race team, who took both XC1 championships last year. And yeah, it was great speaking to them. Mostly her. Her son and husband came in at one point, but didn't really say too much to them except for just hey and bye. But yeah, it was great speaking to her. She's a great girl, or a great woman, and it was just a good time talking about how they got into it, and you know what it's all about, what they feel like it's all about at the end of the day, and what really drives them to do what they do. And yeah, it was just great conversations with some great people.
What about you real big into, and most people don't know this about you, but your family knows that you're real big into podcast. And I know who you met, and I'll let you go into that, but you did get to meet someone that you like to follow in depth on podcasts. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was great. I got to meet Ronnie Cooper with the Split Line Off-Road podcast. Got a shirt and some flea rags from him. That did not go down to Howard's Hole because I wanted to keep them nice. But yeah, it was great to finally meet him in person. You know, you see him on the podcast, listen to him on the podcast, and he just seems like a great stand-up guy, and he truly is that in real life. He's a great guy. He made a point to come see me on the start line Saturday, tell me good luck. He's just great guy. And same thing with everybody else that is on that podcast, and all the guests and everything. Just great all around podcast that highlights the GNCC and off-road industry.
Some people that you got to meet and hang out with, that's kind of our local people. We're very blessed with the people that we have in your corner, our corner for our race team, and you as an individual and your racing. But we got to meet up with one of your favorite people that used to race. He's gone into retirement, and you're kind of egging him on to build something, so you can go with him on it. And we spent some time with him in the over by Adam McGill's pit for a little bit. Talk about him for a few minutes.
Fergie. I was a little lost when we were going where you were going with that, but yeah, Fergie, man. There's not really much to say. He's just Fergie. You know, he's a great guy. Trying to get him to come out to some races. Like you said, he used to race and still has one quad, but he said he wants to race, but he doesn't want to. He's got a couple other projects. He's building a plane right now from scratch, which is super sick, and I can't wait for him to get done with it, because I will most definitely be the first one that he takes up with him when he goes up in it, so fingers crossed that goes well. But yeah, just a great guy, and hope to see him out at some races, not just out there, but out there racing with us.
What was something cool that you didn't expect to happen that did happen?
I'll probably meet Ronnie, to be honest. I was hoping that I'd get to see him out there, but you know, there's so much stuff going on out at the races, and especially Snowshoe. It's not a big piece of land, so to speak, but there's so much going on. It's very easy to miss people there, and so I was able to meet up with them, and that was it was by accident, but it was really great to do that.
What is your greatest takeaway from the event?
That I got a lot of great people in my corner. Very fortunate to eat dinner and lunch. Pretty much every time that I ate somewhere, it was with a group of family, and it was just great to be able to do that with people, and especially close friends and people that I would really consider family. I feel like a lot of them, which we would do the same for them, but a lot of them, if you give them a call, they would pretty much do anything for you. If you were stuck in the mud somewhere, or stuck on the side of the road, it didn't matter where they'd be at, they'd be there for you to get you out of whatever situation you're in. So yeah, just realize that, like I said, got a lot of great people in my corner, and really makes you realize, big picture. It's a lot bigger than just being out on the racetrack and going racing and getting finishes. Alrighty guys, after it's all said and done, I just want to take a quick second to thank the people who support me. First, I want to start off with His Way Racing, His Way Creations, the Rickman family. Thank DP Brakes. Just everybody in my corner, man. I have a lot of people in my corner, like I said earlier in the videos. The Voigt family, Frazier family, Collins family, my family, my girlfriend Shaylee, a lot of other companies out there, the Wharf family, a lot of families, because that's really what it is here at racing. It takes a big family to get it done. So HMF Racing, Fly Racing, a couple others I'm sure I'm forgetting, but yeah, it's just one big family, and I'm very grateful that a lot of these families accept me into their own. And but yeah, that I believe is it. If not, they will all be linked in the description below, or caption below, whatever you're viewing this on. But yeah.